I thought I'd do just a short talk on just some of the things I've intuited from the Bhagavad Gita. It's one of my favourite texts. But I wanted to stipulate from the beginning that this is just my interpretation. I've got lots of friends who are devotees of Krishna and from the Hindu sect, and they're very beautiful people, very generous people. But this probably would not be their interpretation. It might not be their interpretation. This is my interpretation. This is the interpretation that has been intuited to me, and it excites me. It's an intuition that excites me. But with most religious texts, they like you to read it as it is. They like it to be literal, and I completely respect that view. But I would like to talk to you about what I see and what excites me. Something I got recently from reading about the battle of Kurukshetra, where Arjuna is going into battle and he has Lord Krishna on his chariot. And I've talked a lot about Arjuna, and I've talked a lot about the chariot, and a lot of things that I find inspirational about the text, about the Bhagavad Gita, about the Mahabharata, about the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the kind of fruits of the Vedas, which is what the Hindu devotees kind of devour, which is what their reading material. But there was one incident, there's one part of the Battle of Bhagavad Gita which I really loved, and bearing in mind the Bhagavad Gita comes from the Mahabharata. It's one chapter in the Mahabharata, so there's a big build up to this battle. It isn't just the battle itself. So if you're excited by the Gita and you like it, try and get a look at the Mahabharata and have a read of that, because there's a big build up. They don't just go into battle. There's a massive cerebral, spiritual, physical preparation before they go into battle. What I liked, there's one part of the Gita that really excited me, and it's when Arjuna goes into battle. He's got Krishna on the chariot, which means, for me, it means he's working from righteousness. He's working from divinity. He's going into battle, which is what I used to say about the doors. Make sure if you get into a fight, you've got God in your corner. If you haven't got justification, you're in a dark place. So this is about going into battle with your influences, or going into battle with conditioning, going into battle with old core beliefs, but making sure that God's in your corner, making sure you've got Krishna on your chariot. So he's got Krishna on his chariot, and Krishna is the Godhead. So it means he's working from virtue, he's working from divinity, he's working with righteousness in his corner. But the interesting thing is that Arjuna is carrying the bow of Gandiva, and he has two infinite pouches of arrows. And the bow of Gandiva is given to him by Brahma himself. Brahma is the god of the universe. He's one of the incarnations of Krishna. So this bow has been given to him by Brahma. So it comes from a divine place. So I looked at that and I thought, what does that mean to me? How does it help me? If I'm in the world and I want to survive in the world, and I want to create in the world, and I want to live in the world without fear, what does it mean to me? What it meant to me was that when they talked about the bow of Gandiva, and when they talked about the infinite pouches of arrows, and the fact that with these pouches of arrows and with this bow of Gandiva, Arjuna was invincible. They said he's invincible. He's facing tens of thousands of enemies. He's facing almost impossible odds. But they said he's invincible because he has the bow of Gandiva and he's got Krishna in his corner. So to me, the bow of Gandiva and the arrows represented arrows of truth. Arrows of truth, an infinite supply of arrows from truth. And they're arrows of truth because they come from the hand of Brahma himself. So again, if you take away the religious context, and if you take away any different kind of meaning you want to take from it, it's just talking about truth. Your protection in the world is truth. When I'm talking to people who are going through difficult situations and they're sometimes facing dishonest people, I just say to them, you only need to do one thing. You need to come from truth. And truth can only come from one place. It comes from the soul. It comes from divinity. So you need to be working from truth. And if you're working from truth and you stay with truth, you are invincible. No matter what the outcome of the battle, you can find equanimity because you're coming from truth. And when you're working from truth, there is an infinite supply of arrows. You will never run out of arrows, because truth is an infinite source. It's like love, it's a frequency, and everything in front of it, every dishonesty, every lie, every cruelty, every criticism, every judgment will melt in the face of truth. It's about truth. We can't fire arrows of truth, and we can't get the bow of Gandiva from Brahma. We can't do that if we are not truthful ourselves. You can't fire pure arrows from a divided self. We need to be a unified self. So if we've not got truth in us, if we're not truthful ourselves, if we're not truthful about our own responsibility and our own part in a certain process, we can never fire from a divine place. We're not fully protected. I talk to lots of people who end up in court for this or in court for that, or they end up in situations where they're troubled, and the first thing I say to them is, what is the truth of this? Tell me what the truth of this is. What can you take? What can you own on this? Tell me the truth of this. I had one guy that had to go to court. He ran a nightclub, and they were taking him to court. The police were taking him to court over something that had happened that wasn't true. And I said, when you go to court and they ask you not so much about that, but they ask you about other activities in the club, can you be fully truthful? Can you be truthful that you've not been dishonest in the club, that you've not been dishonest in the way you work, and that you're not dishonest in the way you live? Can you be fully truthful about that? And they said, well, no, we do cut a few corners, and we do kind of play around a little bit, and we don't perhaps put everything through the books, and we perhaps do let a few more people in than we should let in. And suddenly we realised that this guy had already lost the court case because he couldn't go in there and work from a position of truth, and he would lose the case. And as it turned out, he did lose the case, and he got very angry about the dishonesty of the police. But I said, I'm not interested in the dishonesty of the police. I'm interested in your dishonesty. You cannot fire virtue from a divided bow. You can't. You can't fire virtue from a divided place. You can't judge other people if you're still not righteous yourself. You can't criticize other people if you're still, not meeting your own standards. And this isn't about me criticizing anybody else. This is about saying, be excited about the fact that you can find a place of truth, and that if you find a place of truth, if you find a place of unity within yourself, and truthfulness isn't always about being perfect, it's about being honest. Truthfulness and congruence is about saying, I make this mistake and I make this mistake, and I'm working on that. That's what I'm working on. I'm working on that. Dishonesty is when we're completely in denial of our own faults, and we stop becoming congruent, we start becoming divided. We know when people are divided because what's the first thing they do? They start to criticize everybody else. They start to attack everybody else. I've done it myself. So for me, the Gandiva blow is very exciting, because it's saying, if you can fire arrows from a truthful place, if you are given the bow of Gandiva and you can fire truthful arrows, you are invincible in the world. You just need truth, and you need to have the courage to be truthful. And that's what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. So it's just like, imagine talking to your higher consciousness, and your higher consciousness is saying, look, as long as you're truthful, as long as you go out and you're truthful, as long as you're completely honest, as long as you tell the whole truth, as long as you're coming from virtue, you're invincible. There is equanimity in that. And there's a great book called The Consolations of Philosophy by Boethius, and the story is about a politician called Boethius. It's a true story, who was wrongly convicted of conspiring against the emperor in Rome, and he was wrongly convicted, and evidence was compiled against him because people around him could not live with his virtue. He was so virtuous and he was such an honourable man, they were very threatened by him because he highlighted their dishonesty. Anyway, he ended up in a cell and he was condemned to death, and he felt as though everything would be taken from him. His family, his wife, his children, his vast wealth had all been taken off him. In the prison, he was visited by a nurse in the guise of wisdom. It was wisdom in the guise of a nurse, sorry. So wisdom visited him in the guise of a nurse, and they did this kind of platonic dialogue where the nurse would ask him things and keep talking to him about his situation and saying, what have they really taken off you? What have they really taken from you? Because Boethius was coming from a place of truth, they managed to get the conversation to the point where they realised that anything that was real, everything that was real and everything that was important could not be taken off him. He didn't own his wife. The wealth was ephemeral. His children weren't really his. They were independent souls. They couldn't be taken off him. All that could be taken off him was the only thing that he could keep was his virtue and his truth and his honesty. And when he realised that the important thing that he had, his own truth, when he realised he got the truth, he found equanimity. He found equanimity in the darkest place. Same as Viktor Frankl when he was in Auschwitz. He found equanimity in the 9th circle of the inferno because he stayed on truth. He found the truth, he found his connection, and he said, I'm not just going to find truth, I'm going to go out. And he was reading the Torah every day, which means the word, the truth, the Logos. He went out, not only did he connect to his own source, but he said, I'm going to come through the situation and I'm going to talk about the situation to the whole world, and I'm going to write a book about it. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He developed a system called logotherapy, which is the search for meaning, the search for truth. And he got through Auschwitz and he became this great orator, this great pioneer, this great philosopher. Truth is what saved him. So for me, it's about looking at my own life, and that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years, is finding out who I am, who I'm not, and taking all the dishonesty from my life. When I'm alone at night, in the dark, on my own, I know who I am. I know I make mistakes, I know I've got errors and I'm working on that, but I know who I am. I am truthful and I'm congruent, and I'm working on that all the time. My plays, my films, my books, my writing are about truth. They're about truth. They're about truth. It's about staying on the truth. We need to stay on the truth. The truth is your salvation. The truth is what's going to set you free. If this sounds like if it sounds like religion, it is, because religion, the word religion means to reconnect. Relagari, it means in Old Greek, reconnect, man to man, man to his source. And if I sound evangelical, that's because I'm telling me. As I'm talking to you now in this camera, I'm actually looking at myself in the screen. I'm telling myself, stay with the truth, trust in the truth, expand the truth, and dissolve all the non-truths. And if you do that, if you stay with that, this bow of Gandiva and this infinite quiver of arrows will make you invincible. But what is the truth about you? That's what you need to know. You don't need to know the truth about me. You don't need to know the truth about your wife. You don't need to know the truth about your friends. You don't need to know the truth about politicians. You don't need to know the truth about, the people that run the world or don't run the world. You don't need to know the truth about conspiracies. You need to know the truth about you. That's all you need to know. If you know yourself, you've got the truth, and when you've got the truth, you're already free. That's a process, because to get to the truth, we have to dissolve the lies, and to dissolve the lies, we have to look at parts of ourselves that we don't really like. Those parts are covered by defense mechanisms, and you see people every single day on the internet projecting from defense mechanisms, transference, reaction formation, alcohol, sex, lying. These are all defense mechanisms. There's a million defense mechanisms. Look it up on the internet. Look up Freudian defense mechanisms. There's a book called 101 Defenses. Read it and shit yourself, because it'll tell you who you are and who you're hiding from. And there are lots of personalities inside there that are not the truth. They need to be re-educated, they need to be reallocated, they need to be expanded, they need to be dissolved, they need to be loved. Sometimes we need to go to war with these old selves because they're taking us on the wrong trajectory. You wouldn't believe how many people I know who I love who have completely disgraced themselves because they don't know who they are. They're falling into this glut of lies about their life and about what they're doing. They've become bullies, they've become trolls, they've become very negative, and it's because they don't know who they are. They are living in a world of lie. They can't even be truthful with themselves. They can't even be truthful with themselves. I see it because I've been it. Again, this isn't a judgment, this is saying I've seen it because I've been it. I've been in that place. When I was violent as a nightclub doorman, I was violent because I was afraid, but I was afraid to say I was afraid. I was violent because I was insecure, If somebody had suggested I was insecure, I'd have been massively offended. Insecure? I can have a fight. I can have a fight me. But I was just massively insecure. Violence is the language of insecure people. Violent language is the language of violent people. Violent, comments, criticism, sarcasm, judgment is violence. It's all violence. Say it how you want, dress it up how you want. It's still violence. It's coming from a divided self. Find the truth in you. Dissolve the untruth in you, and you will be free in the world. It's so exciting. It's so exciting because it's just saying you haven't got to work on everybody else. You just got to work on you, and it's just one thing: find the truth. What's the truth about you? If you've got a situation in your life at the moment, what's it telling you? If you're looking, have a look at the people around you at the moment. Have a look at the people that wind you up, the people that upset you. Have a look at the people who are greedy. Have a look at the people that are critical. Have a look at the people that are judging. These are the people that are in your life. I'm talking about people that are current in your life. Have a look at the people that create a pilot light of aggression or anger or rage or vitriol or envy or jealousy. Have a look at the people that create those feelings in you. Have a look at the people in your life that are reoccurring in your life that bring up those emotions. They are your mirror. The people that you're criticizing are your teachers. They're telling you what's in you. They're not telling you what's in them, they're telling you what's in you. And all you need to do, which is the exciting thing, is recognize that all of these people are my teachers, even though you might not like them, even though you dislike them. If you look at someone and think, I can't stand that greedy man, or I can't stand that hypocrite. If you feel like that, it's because the hypocrite is you. It's because the greed is you. It's because the jealousy is you. It's called reaction formation. We attack in others what we don't like in ourselves. It's brilliant. Teachers everywhere, teachers. There's teachers everywhere. Go back onto your own blogs. Go back into your conversations over the last day, over the last week. Have a look at them, and it's reflecting, it's telling you who you are. When you judge others, it's telling you who you are. The exciting thing is all you've got to do is find the truth about you. You don't need to know the truth about me. That's my job. You don't need to know the truth about my family. That's not even my job. That's their job. You don't need to know the truth about the politician that's supposed to have assaulted women. You don't need to know the truth about that. You just need to see what it reflects in you. What does it correspond in you? What's the truth in you? All that other stuff is a distraction. What is the truth in you? Go to the truth in you. Look at your own life. Find the truth. The truth is going to set you free. So stay with it. Stay with it, because I'm with it as well. I'm on it all the time, believe me. I'm no different to anybody else. I'm out there and I'm looking at the world. What is it reflecting? What is it telling me? I'm looking at it every single day. I'm meditating it every single day. Everybody is a teacher for me.